I've always believed that life had a way of surprising you when you least expect it. My name is Emily, and I'm 26 years old. I had no idea a simple decision to play an online game one evening would lead me to the most important person in my life. My boyfriend and I met while playing that game, and though it sounded strange at first, it didn't take long for us to click. We had so much in common, especially our family backgrounds, that it felt like fate was guiding us together. We've been dating for exactly 1 year now, and in many ways, he knows me better than anyone else ever has. He's kind, thoughtful, and always manages to make me feel safe. But as our relationship progressed, I started feeling a kind of nervousness building inside me. It wasn't because I didn't love him, quite the opposite. It was because I loved him so much that the thought of things not working out scared me. I tried to push those fears aside, telling myself that everything was perfect, and I needed to relax. One day, he invited me to an outdoor party hosted by one of his close friends. It was a barbecue at a cabin, far out in the woods, owned by his friend's father. I had never met his friends before, so I was nervous. What if they didn't like me? What if they thought I wasn't good enough for him? All these thoughts circled in my mind as we drove there. But as soon as we arrived, all my worries vanished. His friends were warm and welcoming, and their wives and girlfriends made me feel comfortable. As the evening went on, we ate delicious food, and I found myself laughing with everyone as if we had known each other for years. By the time we left, I felt like I belonged. It was late when we started driving back. The moon was high, casting a soft glow over the road. I leaned back in my seat, feeling content, when suddenly my boyfriend slowed down and pulled the car over to the side of the road. I looked at him, confused. His face was serious, more serious than I had ever seen it before. "What's going on?" I asked, my heart beginning to race. He took a deep breath before speaking, his voice steady. "What did you think about tonight?" he asked. "Did you like my friends?" "They were great," I said, still trying to figure out where this conversation was going. "I'm glad I got along with them. I had a lot of fun." He smiled softly, but there was something else in his expression, something I couldn't quite place. "I'm really glad," he said. Then, after a pause, he added, "I hope we can keep having fun like this for the rest of our lives." The way he said it made my heart skip a beat. Was this what I thought it was? I stared at him, waiting for him to continue. He reached out and took my hand, squeezing it gently. "What do you think? Do you see us getting married?" His words hung in the air between us, and for a moment I couldn't breathe. Was this a proposal? It felt like everything around me had frozen in time, waiting for my response. I had imagined this moment before, but never had I thought it would happen like this, so unexpectedly, in the middle of a quiet road under the moonlight. Tears welled up in my eyes as I realized that this was real. I nodded, unable to form words. "Yes," I whispered, my voice shaky but full of emotion. "Yes, of course." He laughed softly, pulling me into his arms. It felt like a dream, too perfect to be real, but it was. We sat there for a while, holding each other, lost in the moment. Then, in the heat of our excitement, he suggested something that took me by surprise. "Let's go to that hotel," he said, "the one we visited on our first date. Let's plan our wedding there." The memory of that hotel flooded back to me. It was a secluded place in the mountains, quiet and peaceful, with a breathtaking view of a lake. We had gone there on our first drive date, and I had been mesmerized by its beauty. There had even been a wedding taking place when we visited, and I remember telling him how lovely it would be to get married there. I had no idea he remembered that moment. Without thinking twice, I agreed. We turned the car around and headed to the hotel, our hearts still racing from the proposal. As we drove up the winding mountain road, I couldn't help but feel like something magical was about to happen. But when we arrived at the hotel, that magic quickly began to fade. We were still dressed in our casual clothes from the barbecue, jeans, t-shirts, and sneakers. The moment we stepped into the grand lobby, I realized how out of place we looked. The hotel was as luxurious as I remembered, but it felt different now. The guests were dressed in expensive clothes, and the staff moved with an air of superiority. A bellhop glanced at us as we walked in, and instead of welcoming us, he looked us up and down with disdain. My boyfriend didn't seem to notice, but I felt a knot form in my stomach. As we walked further into the lobby, I could see the front desk staff whispering and pointing at us. My heart sank. Why were they treating us this way? I tugged at my boyfriend's hand, trying to signal that maybe this wasn't a good idea, but he kept walking confidently towards the concierge desk. When we arrived, the concierge gave us a cold smile, his eyes filled with judgment. "May I help you?" he asked, his tone anything but polite. My boyfriend, always calm and composed, explained that we were interested in having our wedding at the hotel, and wanted to speak with someone about it, but the concierge's smile faded, replaced by a look of disgust. "This isn't a place for people like you," he said bluntly. I blinked, not sure I had heard him correctly. People like us? What did he mean by that? My boyfriend's expression hardened, but he remained calm. "We've been here before," he said. "We love this place, and thought it would be perfect for our wedding." The concierge shook his head, his tone even colder now. "This hotel caters to a certain clientele, celebrities, wealthy individuals. I don't think you'll be able to afford a wedding here." I felt my face flush with anger and embarrassment. How dare he speak to us like that? We had every right to be here, just like anyone else. But before I could say anything, my boyfriend squeezed my hand, a silent message to let him handle it. He kept his voice steady, though I could sense his frustration growing. "We're just asking for a consultation," he said. "Can you connect us to the wedding planner?" The concierge's eyes narrowed. "I think it's best if you leave," he said, his voice laced with condescension. "You're disturbing the other guests." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Disturbing the guests? We were just standing there doing nothing wrong. I wanted to scream at him, to demand that he treat us with respect, but I could see my boyfriend's temper starting to flare. If I didn't step in now, things were going to get ugly. Before I could intervene, the manager arrived, drawn by the raised voices. He glanced at us with the same dismissive look as the concierge, and I knew immediately that he wasn't here to help us. "What seems to be the problem?" he asked, though it was clear he didn't really care. My boyfriend explained the situation, but the manager simply laughed. "I'm afraid a wedding here is out of your reach," he said. "This is a luxury hotel, not a place for people like you." There it was again. People like you. I had never felt so humiliated in my life. The manager's words echoed in my mind, filling me with a mix of anger and helplessness. I looked at my boyfriend, hoping he would walk away before things escalated further. But he didn't. Instead, he stood his ground, his eyes locked on the manager. "Are you telling me that we don't belong here?" he asked, his voice dangerously calm. The manager smirked. "I think it's obvious." My boyfriend's jaw clenched, and I knew he was seconds away from losing his cool. "Is this how you treat all your guests?" he asked. "Because if it is, I'm going to make sure everyone knows about it." The manager's smirk faded slightly, but he didn't back down. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave," he said. "We don't want any trouble." For a moment, I thought my boyfriend was going to explode, but instead he simply nodded. "You're right," he said. "We don't belong here. Let's go, Emily." I followed him out of the hotel, my heart heavy with disappointment. We had come here to plan our wedding, but instead, we had been treated like we didn't matter. I didn't understand why they had treated us this way. We had done nothing wrong. As we walked back to the car, the manager's voice echoed in the distance. "Make sure the cleaning staff comes through here," he said. "The lobby's been dirtied." I froze, realizing he wasn't talking about the floor. He was talking about us. The drive home was quiet. I could tell my boyfriend was deep in thought, but I didn't want to push him to talk. I was still processing everything that had happened. The hotel had been such a special place for us, but now it felt like it had been tainted by the way we had been treated. A week passed, and life returned to normal, or at least it seemed to. We didn't talk much about the hotel incident, though it lingered in the back of my mind. Then one evening, my boyfriend called me with unexpected news. "Emily," he said, his voice calm but filled with an underlying excitement. "We can have our wedding at the hotel." I blinked in surprise. "What? How?" He chuckled softly. "Because I own it now." My heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" "I've been working on something for a while," he said. "It turns out the hotel is part of a chain that my family owns. I've been negotiating, and now it's officially ours." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The hotel that had turned us away was now his? It felt surreal, like something out of a movie. "So, does that mean we can still have our wedding there?" He laughed. "Not only that, but I'm going to make sure the entire staff knows how to treat people with respect." The following week, we returned to the hotel, but this time, everything was different. The staff, who had once looked down on us, were now bowing deeply in respect. The bellhop who had ignored us couldn't even meet our eyes. And the manager, well, he didn't seem so confident anymore. As we walked through the lobby, I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. They had no idea we were the same couple they had humiliated. But now, we were in control. My boyfriend called a meeting with the staff, and I watched as he addressed them. "I'm the new owner," he said, his voice steady and authoritative. "And I want to make something very clear. This hotel is for everyone. I don't care if they're celebrities or regular people. Everyone deserves to be treated with respect." He paused for a moment, letting his words sink in. Then, with a smile, he added, "Oh, and by the way, my fiancé and I visited this hotel not too long ago. Some of you might remember us." The room fell silent as the staff exchanged nervous glances. My boyfriend continued, "We were treated as if we didn't belong here. We were insulted, humiliated, and told to leave. But now, things are going to change." He played the recording of the manager's insulting words, and as the audio echoed through the room, I saw the color drain from the manager's face. The rest of the staff looked horrified as they realized what had happened. When the recording ended, my boyfriend turned to the staff. "This kind of treatment is unacceptable," he said firmly. "We're going to rebuild this hotel's reputation, and it starts with treating every guest with kindness and respect." The staff nodded in agreement, and I could see the change in their attitudes immediately. The hotel had once been a place of luxury, but now it was becoming something more, a place where everyone could feel welcome. And as for us? We got married at the hotel, just as we had always dreamed. The ceremony was small and intimate, and as I looked out over the lake, I realized that despite everything, this place still held a special place in my heart.